All right. What is going on, everyone? This is Jake Dunlap, if I haven't met you, and Allie Ray. Don't call her just Allie. I do sometimes on accident because it's easier for me. So I do it sometimes. So I apologize, Allie.
I guess it's okay.
Yeah, you tolerate it. So I appreciate it. So what's going on, everyone? Appreciate you joining. We've got a bunch of folks piling in now. What I want you all to do, if you were able to attend yesterday, fantastic. We're glad you tuned in. We're going to really, hopefully today kind of build on some of the things that we talked about yesterday for sure. Where yesterday we spent a lot of time talking about, modern messaging. What does empathy even look like? I'm sure we'll kind of dabble with some of that today too. So what I want all you to do, so a couple things here. So one, in the chat, so we know who you are, drop in kind of company, your role, and then, if we can, use the Q&A to start dropping your questions in. So for all this stuff, we've had some really awesome questions yesterday, and really, really awesome, kind of interaction from all of you. Like, our goal is really to try to answer a lot of your questions as well too. So we're going to try to make this as much of a Q&A, what you're going through, what's happening, as humanly possible. So if you're joining back, let us know. If you also, what's up, Julie Morrison? I see that you're back again. We appreciate that. Julie was brave enough to let us look at her emails yesterday. So I saw, Julie, that you DM'd me on LinkedIn your follow-up from our feedback. So again, if you're just joining now, what's up, Agio team? Alexandra, hope you all are doing fantastic. And so great. So what we're going to talk about today is, let me tell you this, if your marketing team isn't joining now, I'd highly suggest shoot them the link. We're going to try to, as much as we can here, really talk, quite a bit about what I think is going to be relevant for marketing. What I think is, and that's why I brought, Allie Ray to talk about some of that, is when you think about marketing, when you think about, kind of what we're asking salespeople to do now, this idea of empathy, et cetera, I really want to talk about what are we thinking how can marketing do their job? So I saw we've got, someone in the marketing team from Verint. What's going on, Greg? We're glad that you joined. Bring your marketing team in. I think they're going to get a lot from this. And so, all right, perfect. We've already got our first, no, Pedro put his details. Pedro Santos, what's up? Again, everyone, so start dropping your questions in. If you've got questions around, what we're going to talk about, which is, again, kind of modern sequence building or what you should think about. So Allie Ray, you're going to kind of take a marketing perspective here. And we had a chance to catch up this morning and talk a little bit about this. So, what do you think, as a marketer, what do you think are the relevant things that a marketer should be thinking about, or how a marketing team can support a sales team? And then I want to kind of flip it to one of the questions that we got yesterday that I think is really important was from, I think it was John Gripson. And he said, shouldn't marketing be doing this for me? Shouldn't marketing be doing the buyer persona stuff? So maybe what are some different things that you think maybe marketing has done that sales teams are going to need to do in this new world? So I want you to kind of go into it. I see Michelle dropped a question, how to market on LinkedIn. Yes, we'll definitely talk about that for sure, Michelle. But again, everyone, try to drop your questions in the Q&A because the chat just gets kind of long too. So, all right. So Allie Ray, what are your thoughts? What can a marketing department do, or what are some things that sales teams or leaders should be doing, to kind of emulate things that marketing's done in the past to be successful?
Yeah, totally. So as far as marketing is concerned, what marketing teams should be doing right now is doubling down on their messaging, doubling down on those core values. And that's really what drives the personality of the brand, right? So doubling down on the messaging, figuring out okay, we're gonna scrap promoting a new feature or something like that, and really figuring out what you really want to focus on and how you're going to develop content around that. So if I have some technology that could really help out in times like this, can I develop content, or should I be developing content that supports that, visual content, whether it's infographics, on social, on LinkedIn, blog posts. And then for sales teams, you can utilize those assets in your outbound messaging, in your posting, all of that stuff. So marketing teams should really just be content heavy right now. And then also too, putting together these, because everyone's moving like digital, everyone's moving everything to digital. All of our in-person events are no longer, because we have to be 6 feet. So we're moving to webinars, we're moving to stuff like this. And we found, I mean, there's 134 people here. It's successful. You know, people can connect and network in the chat, and hosting things like this to show your value is only going to support your sales staff. Hosting things like this to say, this is what we have to offer, this is how we can make a difference, let me show you this platform, let me show you this, you know, all of that. Now your sales team can send their prospects here. Now your sales team can reference this information. So, and as far as like what sales teams can do, you know, not everyone has the luxury of having like an on top of it marketing team, right? I've been there, you know. So if you don't have that, or if you're just kind of like an army of one or whatever, you kind of have to act as a marketer in these times. So doing things that marketing would normally do, whether it is developing that type of content or just developing the information, but kind of acting as marketing and developing like the nurture campaigns, and implementing those nurture campaigns that marketing would normally handle. That's something that sales teams and sales leaders and, you know, like account execs and whatnot can kind of start doing now.
I want to go deeper on that. So what I heard was, if you are in marketing, or, you know, look, and I think to your point, you can adapt this from what your marketing might be putting out or other people's marketing. What you need to do is basically stop with the new, like, you know, kind of tone deaf, not recognizing things, you know, and kind of lean more into, you know, what with a lot of our clients and just different people, you know, over the last 4 days, I felt like, you know, I've had, you know, a lot of different meetings with folks, and you know, the theme I hear from kind of marketing departments is they're just not sure what to do. It's like they're just so used to just like, especially on LinkedIn, they're just so used to putting out informational content that's like relatively, like, let's be honest here, you scheduled that shit in Hootsuite, right? Yeah. Like you didn't put thought into it. And I think when I'm thinking about what I think of marketing, I feel like this is a time where marketing needs to say, hey, we've been on autopilot for a while here, especially in how we're using social. And so, you know, Lynn Clement, what's up? You know, she's a client marketer for an influencer agency. So, you know, I think about that. It's like, now for me is the time where I'm going to cancel everything I got in Hootsuite for the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get in the trenches and I'm going to recalibrate. I'm going to start to test. I'm going to think about new things. I'm going to think about new messaging. And if you're in sales, you know, I'd be looking at what my marketing department's putting out. And if they are putting out things that are a little tone deaf, candidly, then, you know, you've got to make those connections, you know, and I'll give an example here. You know, we've got a client in the HR, we've got multiple clients in the HR technology space, but one in particular, conversation with a team, 500 person company, you know, they're like, yeah, Jake, like before our met with their marketing team, sales leadership on Tuesday. And they're like, you know, our Trojan horse used to be our compensation module. It's like, well, okay, are people thinking about comp plans right now? Well, yeah, they are in this industry, right? So in this industry, marketing, all day, let's talk about it, but let's talk about why it's relevant in these industries. But on the flip side, okay, we have a performance management module. We've got a micro surveying module. So now can that be a remote work module? Is that a remote work engagement module as opposed to performance management? And I think that is where I feel like marketing can help, which is, how do I take the concepts of the things that we do, but position them to be relevant today?
And where that really comes down, I mean, this is exactly what we were talking about yesterday when you're crafting your outbound messaging, is understanding your customers' pain points. Where are they at in their journey? What are they stressing out about right now? What are they like, oh my gosh, how can I solve for this? So positioning your service, positioning your business, what technology, whatever it is that you're selling, positioning that in a way that can can optimize their business right now in these tough times. I mean, no business, I don't think any business out there is like, oh yeah, business is great, totally normal, it's fine, no big deal, right? There's no business out there like that. So understanding where their pain points are is going to help drive that content strategy, and then it's going to help your sales team in the end.
Yeah, I mean, the businesses that, I mean, I can tell you that there are certainly industries that are, like, what is it? Instacart's hiring, 300,000 people. Like, there's industries. I just talked to an outsourced demand gen company out of Raleigh. They hit their annual number yesterday. I talked to a podcast company. They hit their annual number yesterday. Their annual number, right? So these.
It's still not like business as normal though. They're not like marketing like.
It's like, now's the time to make hay. Now's the time where it's like, we need to be even more relevant. We need to be more out there. So yeah, and do me a favor, in the Q&A, drop in your company, drop in the company that you use and the industry you sell into, and we'll try to come up with some kind of like modern sequences. So if you want to be brave, drop your kind of company name in the Q&A, drop your kind of industry that you serve, and we can try to get into it. So I think one thing that we're saying here is that don't be tone deaf, right? Is that you need to realize whether it's a good time for you or whether it's a tough time, which is, more people are in the other bucket. So, again, like if I'm that HR tech company, my messaging might be split. It might be focused on, hey, for these big industries, you're having to onboard people more than you ever have before. This is an unprecedented time. You got to think about compensation. Let's have a conversation if you're in one of these three industries. And then the next post is the flip side, which is like, hey, you're managing remote for the first time and it's difficult. You should work with us for this reason. And I don't feel like a lot of marketing departments have had to work this hard in a long time. And I think that's kind of the trend that I'm seeing. And so sellers, if your marketing department's not getting that, that's on you. You got to think this is, this is your brain. You got to do that,
Absolutely. And also too, I mean, like on the flip side of like, not being tone deaf and being sensitive to the time, don't poach it either. Don't take advantage and try and monopolize the situation. And I mean, being greedy for what's out there and the opportunity that's out there is one thing. But, I got an email campaign that said like how to Corona proof your email marketing or how to Corona proof and it's just poor taste. And
Yeah, I think, but that's all they know, right? I think like, and again, it's, they're just like, I think the key is marketing right now is struggling with this duality of nurturing versus CTAs. And they have these quotas. And what I'm seeing is that I don't think marketing and sales organizations are adjusting quotas in, the right amount to say, look, guys, guess what? You're not going to hit this quarter. You're probably not going to hit next quarter.
Yeah.
Jobs report came out. 3.2 million people lost their jobs last week. Do you know what it's going to be next week? It's going to be the same. It's going to be the week after that, maybe worse. Like, yeah. I feel like we've got to be sensitive to these times right now, from a marketing standpoint. So the next thing that I want to dive into, and then we've got a bunch of Q&A, so a lot of people are throwing their stuff in here, which is great. So the next thing I want to talk about, though, is you mentioned briefly nurturing, right? And you mentioned, I think for a lot of times in the sales world, sales is out there direct, right? Like I'm trying to get calls to action, marketing's job is to nurture people. That ain't my job. That's marketing's job. Yeah. And so what do you think, what's the flip side of this, right? Like, how do you think salespeople can take from what marketing has done, with that kind of idea of keeping things warm? What are some things that sellers could do?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're listening to Jake, you already know that you should be posting on LinkedIn, right? Like you already know this stuff. So it's actually implementing it, but what you're posting about should be about your, the benefits that your company or your business or your service or your software or whatever it is, the benefits that they provide your customers in times like this. Now more than ever, you need my service, you need my software because of this. And now you can include that post in your outreach messaging. So you don't want like your outreach messaging to be, like a whole like essay and a half,
Yeah.
but you can refer, you can link it back, and then do that on repeat. You shouldn't just post it once and be like, okay, well, the information's out there, so over and over, keep continuing to repeat it. So, you have these nurturing campaigns like with marketing, and the first thing that's in like top of funnel is your awareness, right?
Yeah.
So now you're identifying in your like awareness level, you're identifying their pain point, you're pointing out the problem, and you're also pointing out the solution, which is your business, your software, whatever it is. So now you're creating awareness there. So now you need to re-engage. So creating the LinkedIn post, asking, have they thought about this, all of that stuff. And then engaging, and to ensure that they're seeing that, engaging with their content, engaging with, other people in the company. So now you're populating in their feed, and you're relevant in their feed because you're engaging with them often. And now when they go to you, they're going to be like, who the heck is this guy? Like, they're going to click on your profile, they're going to click on your activity, and they're going to see all of these posts, not only about, this is the software and this is the problem that it solves, but it's also going to have, customer success stories. This is what we were able to do for this customer. This is what we were able to do for this business. So now there's a more relatable path. And as a salesperson, like what we were talking about yesterday with these like empathetic messaging, now they have not only a personal connection to you, but now they have all the information, and you're more approachable to solve that problem.
Yeah, I think so. So I'll try to kind of dissect it a little bit. So I think if you're in sales, I was talking to the team over at Gong yesterday, and I was talking to Devin Reed, who's their kind of content guy. And he asked me, Jake, what can people do to unfreeze deals? Budgets are stuck, et cetera. And my response to him is I said, look, right now, everybody in sales, you have two categories of clients. You have one category of client where your product solves a mission critical need that they've already have a plan for that they need to implement. That's one category of products. And my friends, for most of you, not some of there's certain industries that are killing it right now. So everyone's in step one for you. So you're good. Most of you have a very small percentage of clients that are in there. Let's call it 10%. 10% of your clients, you established enough of a need. There's the thing. So with those people, it's kind of business as usual. You should be following up. If it's an industry, that you can help and it's a mission critical need now, you can still go with your typical sequence where your call, email, LinkedIn message, because they're doing well, you can help. So you don't need to really adjust the plays that much for that category one. For salespeople, and I think this is what you're getting at, Ali Ray, which is for salespeople, you also need to know that you're going to have most of your prospects right now, and most of the people in your funnel are in bucket 2, which means they're being affected, or the job's being affected quite a bit by everything that's happening. Mm-hmm. And so if they're in that bucket, your job is to nurture them. And like you said, so how can you do that? Connect with them on LinkedIn. Step one, easy, right? I'm telling you, if you use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can create a list of XYZ job titles that you sell into, right? And this is the same for the company pages. By the way, all my marketers out there, I know there's a lot of you out there, right? Jason here from marketing team at Measure Up. What is up, Jason? I'm confused because it says Adrian, but now you say your name's Jason, so I got it. So Jason, your company page can connect with 25 new buyers every basically 3 hours, and LinkedIn will shut you off. So every day you could be adding 50, forget the email newsletter, forget that. Take it up, wad it in the trash, throw it in. You know how many email newsletters are corona proofing right now? Forget that. Instead, 25 people you can be adding to your company page every 3 to 4 hours. Let's say you're going to do 50 people. My friend, it takes you 13 minutes in LinkedIn if you set up a list in Sales Nav. So company pages should be adding relevant buyers so that we can communicate to them. That's one way that you can nurture people. And salespeople, you can do the exact same thing. The second, like you said, is just putting out 1 or 2 pieces of content a week.
Yeah.
That's it. Because now you're a buyer in my funnel, right? You're a buyer in my funnel. And now what happens? Marketing automation is what your marketing team's doing. Guess what? Posting to people that are already following you, you're trying to get in touch with, that, are in that second bucket. That's your version of marketing automation. That's your version of, getting people to engage. And then the third is, like you said, engage, which is, look, again, in Sales Nav, you can go ahead and pull lists and say who posted in the last 60 days from that target list. So I think that's the nurture. The modern nurture plan is every sales rep, you've got a bulk of your prospects are in that second bucket. You're not going to sell them. It ain't going to fucking happen. Give up all hope. It ain't happening. Okay. It ain't happening for at least the next 2 to 6 weeks. So therefore, you've got to go deploy this. And that's why LinkedIn can be such a successful strategy. And not just LinkedIn, you know, you can use Twitter or wherever your people are. You know, I mean, Twitter's just, I feel like is, you know, it's like really blown up with everything that's, you know, going on. And I've been a lot more active on Twitter myself. So I think that that's what we're getting at here. It's like what you're calling out, Ali Ray, is the nurture path. That salespeople, you need to quickly identify in your prospect list. If you're a new business and marketing team, you know, you got to do this too. If you're an account-based company, you only got 1,000 companies you're really targeting. Go through them and say, should I put them in bucket one? You know, or do I have a product offering that could be a bucket one that like we can just kind of keep going business as usual? Or do I need to put them in bucket two, which is more of a nurturing, you know, play that again, you can use call and email and video, and we'll talk about some modern sequencing now, but I hope that helps everyone, you know, kind of think about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Martin asked how many times you should repopulate the same message. Well, I mean, when you write this LinkedIn post, what is that, like 1,400 characters or something that you can have? I mean, you can use that information to write another post and to write another post, you know, like, and repurpose that information. It's not like you have to share the post over and over and over. But if the information is the same, let's say your software or business or service solves three different pain points for customers, make a post about each one, make a post about all of them, you know? So, and as you're creating these outbound messaging and you're testing and whatnot, test, you know, if you're one of your prospects, the number 2 solve really speaks to them, then send them to that link, you know, send them to that post or send them to all 3, you know, you can test all of this stuff. So, it's not that you're repopulating or reusing just the same post over and over and over. This should be on repeat. You should not just post just one time and then you're good as gold. You need to have that process and then repeat it and then repeat it again.
Yeah, I like that, because then whenever I DM, I can just DM you with that post that talked about, you know, that hey, look, I know you're going through a lot right now. I've got a lot of other project managers at manufacturing companies who are going through it too. I put a post up. I hope it helps. You know, as you're thinking through this, I'll follow up in a few weeks just to make sure, you know, see how things are going, et cetera. You know, hope all is well, and I'll share things I think are relevant. Thanks. That's it.
And then that's that no CTA. That's nurture versus no CTA. You're not like, let's schedule a meeting to talk about it. No, that's
yeah, and that's I think what a lot of sales or it's feel free. You can, you know, I'm okay with a little push on the second group. I'm okay with like a little bit of like let me just see where they're at, because I also don't want to be overly assumptive, you know. So I'm okay with like, you know, a twinge of like, you know, hey, if for some reason this is more timely now, we can catch up now. But if not, I'll plan to catch up in 2 weeks. You know, it's like kind of a gentle push as opposed to like, you know, let me know what your calendar looks like tomorrow. You know, and I've been getting a lot of DMs on LinkedIn. Obviously, as a CEO, I get a lot of just messages, and, you know, I'm like, dude, just do better. like try to relate to me. And then I see like how much research that they're willing to do. So, all right. So I want to get into some of the questions you got. So we got Zach Levendovic. Zach, again, if you know me by now, you know that I suck at names. So he says, what tools? He has Hootsuite, HubSpot, Outreach, at Salesforce. The only thing I see that's missing here right now is Sales Navigator. I think Sales Navigator is critical right now, because I can kind of create lists of people that I can do some of this nurturing stuff with digitally versus just in my, you know, Outreach or SalesLoft or whatever you're using. So that would be the only one I see missing. Are there any marketing tool, like any like listening tools like that you think, Ali?
Yeah, I mean, so there's like stuff like Meltwater, you know, like Meltwater is like a listening tool, which is really great.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, so you could look into that. And I mean, even, yeah, I honestly, I would say Meltwater is kind of like my number one.
Yeah, Meltwater is interesting. So if you don't know Meltwater is actually like it's built for PR and comms teams. But yeah, I think turning on Meltwater for sales teams, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting place. So basically, it's kind of like an aggregator of all news about different topics. So you could set up some alerts and maybe work with your marketing department or PR group to just get you some alerts. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Devasha Bacon says Gong. Yeah, Gong's great too. Gong is great, especially if if I'm in marketing right now, I would be living on Gong right? Why? Because then I could actually see what people are doing. You know, I could just see what people are like, listen, I could hear, not see, I could listen to what customers are saying and how they're responding. So I think Gong could be a great tool. Hey, Ali Ray, can we have, I don't know if Becca's on this. Can we drop, I just told people to email marketing. Can we drop yesterday's session in the chat?
Yeah.
Let's do that. So a few people put that on there.
Okay, here, let me.
All right, so let's go into, we got some other ones. So Pedro Santos, he's in cybersecurity. There's actually a few different folks I saw here that are in different versions of cybersecurity. Becca says she's on it. So Becca's going to drop yesterday's webinar link for everyone. What's up? Thank you, Becca. Becca helps to put everything together and makes the wheels run with Ali Ray. So cybersecurity. All right, let me kind of think about this. So cybersecurity, again, what I would do, the first thing I would do, Pedro, is I would think about who cares about cybersecurity right now, right? Is there a group of people that cares about cybersecurity or a use case? So go, Ali Ray. I can tell like you're very excited about this.
Everyone is probably caring about cybersecurity right now. Everyone is working from home. All of these teams are working from home.
That's it.
Right now. So what are they doing? How are you? Sorry, I've got like a fly here. I'm not swatting out the air. So how are your teams being secured? How are they accessing drives and forms and whatnot? So how are they being secured? Is there a VPN? And do you have Duo? Right. You know, all of that stuff. So using that as like an aggregator and just using that as like your end. So lots of teams are working from home. How are you securing their connection?
I love that.
You know,
that's my angle too. I would think so for you, Pedro. We've got a couple other, Bob's at White Hat. I know White Hat pretty well. I think White Hat's here in Austin too. Maybe, I don't remember. So, I think that's the move. So again, if you're in application security, which might be more about like your website security, that might be a little different. We can come to that. So I think, look, if you're in any type of network security space, now is a time where candidly, I think you can kind of run a slightly more normal play. But what I want you to do is think about the repositioning of that play, Pedro. The positioning isn't network security, it's remote work security. And that is super, 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 super timely. So everyone, all right, Becca just dropped the link in there. Head over to my YouTube, check it out. You're going to see some cool stuff. So then there's application security, or like, let's call it website security. So what, again, that might be, again, very industry specific, meaning if it's an industry right now that's really getting hit, I don't think website security is like, oh my gosh, yes, now we have to do this because people are beating down our door. I think for a lot, it's like, I would focus on, if I'm White Hat, I'm going to be going to, who's my ones? There's that group of ones who's feeling this now? Who are the people where their websites are actually getting more traffic? Maybe it's my e-commerce clients. Maybe it's my, other clients like that. So that's my big piece of advice there is like, if you're in more of like website security, et cetera, I would just narrow my focus, and then do some of the nurture things we talked about with some of those other groups.
And that kind of answers Nicole's question as well, like, like how to drive like sales and closes now versus like, like people who are trying to push their timelines out to June or July. Figure out your buckets, figure out who's in that bucket number one, where you meet that need that has to be solved right now, and start going after them and start your nurture campaign with that bucket too.
Yeah. And that's Pedro's, he's in sales in the Northeast, just help around how to reach out. Pedro, look, the other thing I do want to be clear, Ali Ray talked about like getting that marketing message that's kind of like a little because it's just like, it's like toned down. Again, the key is if you're going to say Corona proof your email marketing and then you bring it home for me, then the first line says, as a consulting firm, my best estimate is that email marketing and Corona are probably being affected by this. Okay, now maybe I'm going to now I'm interested. But if it goes into generic value prop number 32, which I promise is what it did, that's when people aren't. But the point I was making, Pedro, is look, you're still in sales. And if you have a value prop and you believe in your heart that this can help people, and I really believe it can. I believe if you're in cybersecurity right now and you've got 75 salespeople working remote who've never worked remote. You think those guys aren't clicking on all kinds of dumb clickbait and all kinds of stuff? They are, you know, and they're not logged into your secure servers. So I would think about all the different behaviors and the validity of like how strong your argument is. So I think you keep going at it, man.
It's interesting too. Mobile traffic has dropped like exponentially because everyone is on desktop and they don't need to, you know, like.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Entertain themselves on, you know, like on their phone while they're at work. They can just do it on their desktop because it's open all day. You know, they're sitting on the couch watching Netflix and going on Facebook and shopping and on ads and God knows what else. So using that, you know, kind of like to your advantage. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to go down here. So John D. Quattro, I know I nailed that name. He works at Path Factory, MarTech vendor, which helps companies increase conversions and funnel velocity. A lot of our meetings are being canceled and deals pushing, even with softer messaging, understanding the world and what's going on. Not much seems to be helping. So again, I think what you're going to hear, and again, I'm going to try to not beat a dead horse over and over again, is, you know, John, I think you've got to be really smart about this. Everybody right now, here's what I would say. Every company I talk to, because let me tell you, I know the companies right now that are making a shit ton of money and they are outsourced lead gen firms. I've talked to multiple of those this week. They're like, dude, we are killing it. We just had this next client sign up for 4 SDRs, this other one. People are hurting for leads. And I think instead of, if I'm you at Path Factory, I think Path Factory sells, targeting the right folks, getting people interested in difficult and uncertain times. You don't sell increased conversion and funnel velocity. You don't sell that anymore. You sell that in 2 months. Right now, you sell leads in an uncertain time. And because you can work with them to get there. And so I think, John, it sounds to me like in this pitch that maybe it's just not enough about what these people are going through, right? And finding the industries right now that are really hurting for leads. Who are they? Well, they're B2B tech companies. Yeah, definitely. B2B tech companies that sell into other tech companies are getting destroyed right now because people are starting to let people go. There's 1 million people let go in California last week, alone, right? A lot of tech jobs, a lot of sales jobs in there too. So I think people are going to be cutting marketing. They're going to be cutting SDRs. And so, John, I think this could be an interesting time on a positive flip for you, but you got to change the messaging. I want you to sell leads. I want you to sell hope, a way out, and Martin MacArthur, what's up, Martin? He's chimed in. Yeah. Outbound sales dev blowing up. I'm getting a steady stream of inbound and outbound. So that's great.
Yeah. And focusing on, like optimism and, whatever. So, Jake and Morgan Ingram, and Jake and Brooke yesterday talked about outbound messaging and how to be empathetic and how to create those softer messages is what I'll say.
Yeah.
But I had a couple of people, DM me on LinkedIn and say, hey, can you review this messaging? And I think it's personalized and I think it's this. And it was pitchy as hell. It was pitchy, it was poachy. And they're like, oh, this is our soft messaging. And it wasn't just because it's a little bit personalized and you're saying everyone's going through a hard time. That's not a soft messaging. That's not empathetic at all. Yeah.
And so I think what you're hearing from us when we talk about kind of building a modern sequence or modern marketing plan to kind of bring it home to our topic, it's if you identify a segment of the ones, and the ones, as I said, are the people that are still have a need and are in it or are in industries that are really thriving right now, right? And there are plenty, my friends, there are plenty of industries that are doing just fine. Although 90% aren't, there are the 10% that are, and they are doing very well. So for those, look, I think what you can do is, again, it's less that you actually need to adjust your marketing strategy. Like you can probably still be running a lot of that. For that 1%, or 10%, you just need to adjust the positioning. It's less about, so if you sell into an industry that's being impacted, or that is being impacted positively by this, or you really sell a painkiller, not a vitamin, then I don't think you need to change a lot. But what you do just need to do is tweak that positioning to be relevant. So again, it's not performance management, it's workforce, it's remote work engagement. It's not cybersecurity and network security, it's remote work security with everyone working from home. Right. So it's just, and then you can kind of still run, but again, instead of physical events. Now let's convert some of the budget. Let's go do a little more paid on LinkedIn. Let's go do a little bit more paid here. Let's go start to do some webinars on the topic of remote work security. I got to tell you, if I'm you, Pedro, I would start to put out nothing but remote work security. Boom, boom, boom. I'd do my own webinar about it. Like that's what I would be doing if I was a sales rep right now. All right, so we've got a question in here. I think this is a good one. I want to take this one. Manuel Heilman, Manuel. Do sales leaders adjust comp right now in these new realities and days? What are you hearing? Adrian, Adrian, I did see you comment this, says that will send poor performance in the stock environment. And so here's the thing. There's a difference between what you tell Wall Street and like what you do internally. And do I think that people are going to cut quotas yet? No. I don't think we're there yet. I think in 3 to 4 weeks, I think we're going to revise forecasts. I think for a lot of companies, and it's just everybody's going to be doing it. You know what I mean? Like everyone's going to be revising quarterly earnings. And so I think actually now, unlike other times, Adrian, there's going to be an understanding that didn't exist before. Now it's going to be how bad did you miss? Not did you miss? And what do you think about from the marketing side? Do you adjust marketing's goals during these times? Ali Ray? Like, do you think?
I think so. I mean, and your goal, because buyers are there, but your buyers are different. And again, you're falling into these buckets. So it's more about like, has my reach expanded? Has my impact expanded? And it's less about conversions. So, getting those contacts, getting them in the funnel. So when they are ready to purchase, like you're able to act and you have an established relationship.
Yeah.
I think marketing can really focus there.
Yeah. And you're staying in front of them. And so, by May, maybe you're not quite doing it. Maybe you're just pushing out. And so then hopefully you're building this big groundswell. So by May, June, July, or, July, August, you're starting to play catch up. So 2020 still isn't completely out of shot. It's just, you've kind of shifted some of that. So that makes sense. Yeah.
What's great about this is that as sales teams kind of take on the role of like a marketer in and of itself, now you're just boosting your presence for your company that much more. You're boosting your presence for your business. So when things hopefully return to normal in the next, 3 months, 4 months, 5, 6. So when they return to normal, you have that much more of a presence, that much more of established relationships. And all of that. And so now, just like Jake said, you're playing catch up on all of those leads that you've nurtured over the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And then you can now you have more tools in your toolbox to create these new leads for yourself.
Yep. All right. So we've got, what's up, Mark Sparrow? Mark Sparrow dropped a comment. My friend out in Cape Breton. Mark and I have been fishing out in Cape Breton before. Mark never catches anything, but that's all right. So Mark works at Security. I know these guys. We worked with them a while ago. So Mark, I think the pitch to you is the same. I think if you heard our pitch about security, it's an IT, it's a security for tech companies. I think it's the same thing. I think it's like, hey, are you worried about security right now as a tech company with all these remote workers? Let's set up time to meet. I think you can be direct. I don't think if you're in IT security right now, there's a fit. Mm-hmm. And so I think you can crush it. I wouldn't adjust anything. All right, let's go to, all right, so here we go. We got a couple other folks in here. I want to take some ones that I think are more troubling here. Let's do Michael Hughes. Michael Hughes, social solutions, CRM client management, working in nonprofits. So what if he's selling like nonprofit, government sector? Like, what are your thoughts on, CRM client management for nonprofits? Like, what's the play there?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of, nonprofits kind of shutting down right now. But really, again, just describing your value. So if you have a nonprofit that's still existing, that's still standing, they're still running and all of that, and they're funded, then again, propositioning your value. What can you bring to them right now? Why do they need you the most right now? So, and really too, with these nonprofits, a lot of them are finding, how can I help in this global pandemic? It's not national, so how can you help them help others? So again, just positioning and how you're positioning your services.
Yeah. And I would think about, I would go back to the ones and twos. There's certainly some groups of people, groups of nonprofits that are getting flooded with donations,
Mm-hmm.
that are, Red Cross, like, again, like blood banks are really hurting. There's some other ones, but I'm sure that there's some other, like, disease relief, disaster relief, those types of things. Like, I'm not an expert in this space, so do not listen to anything I'm saying about which are the industries, but I think look there first, and direct call to action. The others are, look, hey, right now, donor management is more important than ever, right? So again, like, hey, you're a nonprofit. I work with a lot of nonprofits right now. They're really thinking about donor management and how they can better engage their donors. So I don't sell a CRM. I sell a donor engagement platform that helps people. And right now, I have a sneaky feeling. This is called a Jake fact, where I'm like 80% right 100% of the time, or 100% right 80% of the time. But I have a sneaky gut feeling that I'm thinking online donations right now are actually probably up. Like, I'm seeing a lot of GoFundMe pages. People are on their desktop. Obviously, look, we're tightening the wall. And again, I could be wrong, so to just test this. But that's how I would think about it, Mark, is like, go find the nonprofits that are probably thriving right now. That's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is I would change that positioning. And again, my sequence would be much more normal, business as usual, with some slight positioning change. Schlock Dave, or I'm guessing it's Dave Schlock, not Schlock Dave. He says, I represent Hot Wax Commerce. We help fashion retailers to run their online and inline stores on one unified cloud. So if you're in marketing at Hot Wax, fashion retailers run their online or in-store businesses on one cloud, and you're in marketing or you're in sales, what's the play that you're running here? What is the sequence of things that you're doing if you're selling into fashion retailers who are wanting to run online or cloud? And again, like, what's your hot take?
Ooh, that's another tough one. I would say for fashion retailers, a lot of them are shutting down. A lot of them, there's a couple of stores that I frequent that they've even shut down their online shops and whatnot. But, it's not like they're stopping business. It's not like they're just sipping coffee and watching Netflix all day. They're still doing stuff at home, and they're going to need a place to put all of that information and store it. And while they pause their business, and while the internet is getting overcrowded and whatnot with content, and they're likely the same, they're going to have to store it somewhere. So, I would just kind of figure out, like, who with your ICP, like with fashion retailers, like, is it big fashion retailers? Is it small business? And then finding out what their pain points are right now and what they're kind of dealing with,
Yeah.
not really pitching. It would kind of almost be not a waste of time, but if a business isn't open or something, they're not really going to be thinking about that. So kind of developing that nurture campaign is that. So identifying your buckets there.
Yeah, I think, and you could probably use some type of, again, think about your two different groups. There are some, again, are there types of fashion groups that, that are doing slightly better? I don't think so. From what I know, is fashion's kind of down across the board. But with that being said, what do I care about? I'm a CEO of a small fashion brand. What do I care about when I think about my online store that you can help with? Conversions. Yep. Right. What I think about now is every little traffic, like my traffic, I got to convert the shit out of those people. So my advice to you is, if I was going to be doing more direct sales messaging right now, again, like calls, email, LinkedIn, like that type of outreach, I would, again, but it's about positioning coupled with strategy, right? Everyone. So, small fashion brand, you might want to nurture, but the initial push might be, look, hey, if your traffic is starting to die down, I've talked to some of my clients also in, fashion apparel in particular, conversions become important. That, it was a 2% shopping cart conversion before, 5% with less traffic equals similar results. Let's set up some time to see if that's top of mind for you. So yeah. I think you can go with more of a traditional marketing play, but again, reposition it, right? Yeah. You don't sell a website e-commerce platform. You sell a conversion platform to triple their conversion rates for high fashion brands.
Yeah.
That's my take. Lynn, Apex Drop Influence Marketing. We serve B2C brands in fashion, food, bev, consumer products, pet products, beauty, etc. So basically B2C brands, influencer marketing, social media use is skyrocketing, but brands are frozen. So if you're in the influencer marketing space, with companies that are primarily B2C, what are you thinking from a sequence standpoint? So you're reaching out to these brands, these CPG brands, these pet product brands. How are you thinking about this messaging for Lynn Clement?
Yeah. You can still, I honestly, I feel like again, I think it's the same as anything. People are flocking to social media. Influencers have not stopped. And a lot of influencers are, especially if brands are like giving back to the global pandemic, if they're donating percentage or whatever, a lot of these influencers are willing to work for free because they're a part of that. They're a part of that campaign. So kind of figuring out that and then kind of positioning yourself. So I would say, business as normal, because influencing has not stopped at all. I mean, I see it every day. I see it all day on Instagram, on LinkedIn. I see it on Twitter, Facebook. I see it everywhere. So just figuring out what now are they now, they're not just influencing the brand, they're influencing the heart and soul of the brand. They're influencing, they're influencing about the core values of the brand, not just the product.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think, you find the brands that are doing a lot of this support. You talk to the brands, and it's about maybe forging relationships right now. Hey, I've got influencers right now that are so on board with this. Let's set up some time. These brands that you couldn't crack before, hey, I can get you, we can get you more organic exposure for that, at a fraction of the cost today. And I don't think it hurts to establish those relationships. So then again, 3, 6, 12 months, you're going to come on the other side of this with a ton of relationships. So things might be tough for the next bit, but you're offering help. And that might be one of those industries where you do that. I want to take basically just a couple more questions here, and then we'll wrap up. And just so everyone knows, Becca, if you can drop the link in for tomorrow, I think is it the same link? Let's join the same. So literally, guys, you can just join the same link tomorrow. We're going to be talking about getting deals moving. So yesterday we talked about positioning. Today we're talking about strategies for outreach, and again, I want you to just think about my 1-2 strategy. Is this an industry or a group that's really crushing it right now? Or where you solve like a very specific need, that's a need, real need, right? Or are they in bucket 2? And so every company, every sales rep, every marketer needs to have 1-2. Who's my group here? There are people that you can sell to that are crushing it right now. And that's why I want to take Sal Velardo. What's up, Sal? Sal's question is Webonese. Technology consulting, custom development for healthcare. Right now, I'm not selling anything, but instead helping the industry leaders document the business challenges that are coming up and how well they are working. So I like that. I like that approach. But I also, I think again, there are certain pockets within healthcare where their systems are antiquated. And if you can say, look, right now you're worried about everything that's happening up here. There are probably some small things that you can do on the back end, and they are this and this for most hospitals or healthcare companies I work with. If this is an issue, let me help you with that in the next 30 to 60 days. I think if you know if you know the pain point. So again, anytime you're web managed services, I got Jack on here from Agio, for example, they sell into asset managers. You don't do IT managed service. You solve this pain point. So I think, Sal, you could try to be a little more aggressive around that pitch to a CTO. Hey, in your space, if you're in assisted living, you guys are on lockdown right now, right? You're not losing business, right? But now would be a time to think about some of this stuff. If you've been thinking about upgrading, you're in an assisted living facility, nobody's leaving, they're not unrenewing, right? Like they're on lockdown more than anyone. So I think, Sal, there's probably some pockets for you, man.
I see a question here from Lynn Wenger. So early childhood education has been disseminated. One-place software sees a need to empathize, but still need to market relevantly. What frequency would you recommend reaching out by email, social, all this stuff? Lynn, I think you're sitting on a gold mine. All of a sudden, every parent in America, around the world, is a teacher, and they don't know what they're doing. I mean,
thank God for my nanny. I'm not kidding you. Yeah. She's got my son. My nanny created this stuff. It was a fish that had different addition and subtraction things. And then each number had a color. And so my son had to color in, and I'm like, whoa, like you're a much better parent than I am.
Like, you know, and so we have all of these parents are now all of a sudden teachers. And if you're still, I mean, if you're, you know, like, blessed and still are working and still have a job, now on top of that, you are, you're working and trying to manage your workload and all of that stuff. So I think that you're sitting on a gold mine. And I think is, again, repositioning it. You aren't selling early childhood education, you're selling tools to help parents.
Online learning. That's right. Yeah, you're selling parent engagement with their kids, and that we are going to help you through this time. That's all. And in your play, I'd be putting that out on LinkedIn all day long. Here's your parent tip number 2. Here's your activity for your kid. Here's your early, your middle school, and your high school activity. You know, and you're putting that out every day. I think you're going to crush right now. But
put out content. I mean, you know, activity books, whatever you have that you can put out as like free downloadables, get that awareness out there, because they're just going to share it, you know.
That's
and
right.
then giveaways on social media. I mean, people, moms, dads, they're on Instagram, they're on LinkedIn, you know, working parents are on LinkedIn all the time. So just every platform you can, I would just push. But again, you don't sell early childhood education. You sell tools to supplement parents.
I love that. Yeah. So All right, guys, we're going to wrap up. Jake Jacobson. I have to take that name just because it's Jake Jacobson. I know Jake, by the way. He's a good dude. If you're in RevOps B2B teams, look, man, I think this is a really tough business to be in right now. I would go to, Jake, is the businesses that are making hay, which are candidly are not B2B. Well, there's some B2B. I take that back. There's definitely some pockets of B2B, but there's a lot more B2C. So what I would do, Jake, is again, I would really think, I go look at the industries. Who are the industries that, you know, if I look at the stock market, I look at what are the industries that are up, and I would spend all of my time there, because I think RevOps in particular is something that right now people like, I'd love to clean this stuff up. Oh my gosh, it'd be so great, but I got bigger fish to deal with. So that's my advice, Jake. Just think more about the industries you're targeting, because anything else is going to be, and then again, use that number 2 play where it's, you know, email, call, some LinkedIn touch points where you're adding value. So Allie Ray, thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody. Again, tune in tomorrow, same time. It'll be 2:00 Central. It might be too early to have a glass of wine, but we'll see what happens. Where we're going to talk about getting deals through today. So if you're struggling with sales right now and you're trying to think of new ways to get people to take action or to set up the right next steps, make sure to tune in tomorrow. So appreciate everyone. Tag your sales team. Make sure they get the link. Share it around. We had almost 150 people in here today, and we'll see everyone tomorrow, and stay healthy out there.
Bye, y'all.